So now you know that we use 3 different types of structure to map out and make sense of the market. How do we actually map it out on a candlestick chart? So for swing and internal structure, we use candle body closes to map structure. For fractal structure, all we need is a wick break. What I mean by that is represented in these 2 diagrams. So in the first one, a high is made and a pullback starts to form. Here's the high that's made, and then the pullback starts to form. Price then pushes up and wicks above this high before the candle then comes back and closes within the range. When using swing and internal structure, we cannot map this as a break of structure because price has failed to break and close above the previous high. Therefore, our high stays where it is here, and then price pulls back again. The idea behind this is that if we are basing our trade ideas off the swing and internal, we need to see high conviction in the break of structure. It must be obvious with a break and close that this is the intended direction of the market. Price then pulls back then to this point here and then pushes up, breaking with a candle body close above that previous high. This shows strong intention that price wants to move upwards, and so we can mark on our break of swing or internal structure. Fractal structure, however, is our most aggressive type of structure. We use it for confirmations and for entries, so we map wick breaks as breaks of structure. This is because we don't need such high conviction, as we're not basing a whole trade idea off of it. It is just used as either confirmation of a level, or it gives us good entry criteria. In this diagram, we see exactly the same piece of price action. A high is formed and then a pullback starts to occur. Price then pushes up, and when the high breaks, the very second it breaks, even with just a wick, that causes a higher high to form, a higher fractal high to form. Therefore, we can map on our fractal structure break here as soon as price trades through this previous high. Price then pulls back towards the fractal low, and there'll be more on how to map this fractal low later in the video, and then breaks this fractal low. Price then pushes up yet again, breaking that fractal high, causing this higher fractal high to form. Now, I hope from these diagrams then you can kind of see how fractal structure is a lot more aggressive than internal and swing structure. In the price action here, which is exactly the same, body close mapping for swing and internal gives a high, a higher low, and then another higher high. And structure for the candle body close always stays bullish. Fractal mapping, however, gives 2 trend changes, right? 2 CHoCH's for the same piece of price action. We want our main swings in price to not have this chopping and changing of directional bias, but we want our entries and our timing mechanisms mapped fractal because we want to be aggressive when getting into trades. So let's actually go over then how to map fractal structure in this example, because lots of people do get it wrong. You need to be super confident about your ability to map fractal structure, as when you use it for entries, you're going to have to be very quick to place a trade, maybe even within a few minutes. You need to be 100% confident that the fractal structure is mapped correctly, as you don't want to be hesitating when entering a trade. So I'm going to go through the definitions first, and then I'll go through the diagram to reinforce these definitions visually. So starting on the left here then, a fractal high is confirmed when the following candle fails to break its high. Once a fractal high is formed, anything can happen between the marked fractal high and the fractal low until price trades through either the high or that low. In a bullish trend, the new fractal low is now the nearest candle to that fractal break of structure that failed to break the previous candle's high. Okay? So here we have a push up, a pullback, and a push up and a break of that fractal structure to the upside. As soon as we trade through this previous candle's high, even if it was just with a wick, we've now created a new fractal range, okay? And we can draw on that fractal structure break here. So looking at our definitions then, in a bullish trend, the new fractal low is now the nearest candle to the fractal structure break that failed to break the previous candle's high, okay? So in this case, as soon as we get this structure break, this fractal break here, we can then look back and find where our fractal low is, okay? So again, our fractal low is the nearest candle to the fractal break of structure that failed to break the previous candle's high, okay? So this is the break of structure. This candle broke that fractal structure. And if we look back, this candle broke the previous candle's high, right? Because it traded above this previous candle's high. This candle, if we look at the previous candle, it traded above this previous candle's high, and therefore this candle broke this previous candle's high. Then we look at this red candle here, and this red candle failed to break the previous candle's high, okay? So this is the previous candle's high here, and this red candle failed to break it, failed to break that previous candle's high, okay? It failed to trade above that previous candle's high. And therefore this candle here, the low of this candle, is now our new fractal low, okay? So as soon as we get this break structure, we can look back, we can find our fractal low, and we can mark on our fractal low, okay? Now if we go back up to where the break of fractal structure happened, we can then try and find our fractal high, okay? So our fractal high is confirmed when the following candle fails to break its high, okay? So this candle here broke this fractal structure, and now we're going to be looking for that fractal high to form. If we look at this blue candle, okay, the following candle broke this blue candle's high, okay? The blue candle traded here, and the following candle broke this blue candle's high, and therefore the blue candle is not the fractal high, okay? Let's move on to the next candle, this red candle. If we look at this red candle, we'll look at the following candle. Did the following candle break this red candle's high? Well, the following candle is all the way down here, right? The high of this following candle is all the way down here. And it failed to break, it failed to break this previous candle's high, okay? So a fractal high is confirmed when the following candle fails to break its high. And if we look at this red candle here, this red candle failed to break this previous candle's high. And therefore, our fractal high can now be drawn on, and it can be drawn on there. So that's our fractal high. This is our fractal low, okay? So this is now the fractal range, the new fractal range that we're trading within. Price can do whatever it wants while it's within this range, as long as it doesn't break either that fractal high or that fractal low, okay? Then what do we see then? We see price come down, price push up, and break that fractal structure to the upside, okay? So in this candle, as soon as we trade through this fractal high, this previous fractal high, even if it's with just a wick, we can draw on our fractal structure break. After this fractal structure break, what do we know? We know that there's a fractal low that caused that fractal structure break, okay? So how do we find our fractal low? Well, to find our fractal low, in a bullish trend, it is the nearest candle to the fractal break of structure that failed to break the previous candle's high. So this blue candle that broke structure broke this previous candle's high. This blue candle that is right here broke this red candle's high, right? This is the previous candle's high, and this blue candle traded through this red candle, okay? So it broke the previous candle's high. If we look at this red candle, it failed to break the previous candle's high, right? It did not trade above this previous candle's high. Therefore, this red candle here is our fractal low, okay? Now, we don't draw on our fractal low through another wick, and so the fractal low then just becomes this low here, okay? So moving on to a bearish example then, I'll go through the definitions again of a bearish example, and then we'll talk through the diagram. So a fractal low is confirmed when the following candle fails to break its low. Once a fractal low is formed, anything can happen between the marked fractal high and the marked fractal low until price trades through either the high or the low. In a bearish fractal trend, the new fractal high is now the nearest candle to the fractal break of structure that failed to break the previous candle's low, okay? So it's exactly the same as the bullish example, just in a bearish example, right? So we'll go through it now. So we push down, we pull back, and then we have a break of fractal structure to the downside here. As soon as this red candle, right, trades through this previous fractal low, we know that this is a fractal break of structure, and we can draw on our fractal break of structure here. Okay, even though it's just a wick, it's still a fractal structure break, because for fractal structure we use wicks. Okay, so as soon as price trades through this previous fractal low, we can then draw on that fractal structure break. After this fractal structure break, what do we need to find? We need to find where our fractal high is that caused that structure break. In a bearish fractal trend, the new fractal high is now the nearest candle to the fractal break of structure that failed to break the previous candle's low. So this is where the fractal structure was broken. And if we look at this candle, it broke the previous candle's low, right? This is the previous candle's low here, and this candle broke this previous candle's low. So therefore, this is obviously not the fractal high. We look at this candle here. This candle traded here, and the previous candle's low is here, right? So it broke that previous candle's low, and therefore this is not our fractal high. If we look at this blue candle here, what does it do? It fails to break the previous candle's low. Okay, so this is the previous candle's low here. This is the previous candle to this blue candle, and this blue candle fails to trade below this low. It fails to break this low, and therefore this is then our confirmed fractal high. What do we do then? We just draw on our fractal high here. So that's our confirmed fractal high that caused that fractal structure break to the downside. Okay. Okay, now we have our fractal high mapped on. We need to find our fractal low. So a fractal low is confirmed when the following candle fails to break its low. So if we look at this red candle here, does the following candle fail to break its low? No, right? Because this following candle trades below this red candle. So the red candle is not the fractal low. We then move on to this candle, this blue candle. Does the following candle fail to break its low? Well, the following candle trades to here, right? And it fails to break this candle's low, okay? The following candle fails to break this low. And therefore, this is then mapped on as our new fractal low, okay? So we have our fractal high, and now we have our fractal low here. Anything can happen within this range until we either get a break of the fractal high or a break of the fractal low, okay? So price pushes up here, and then we push down, and as soon as this red candle here trades through this fractal low here, we can then mark on this as our fractal structure break. What do we know when we have a fractal structure break? Well, we know that there's a fractal high that formed that caused that fractal structure break to the downside. In a bearish trend, the new fractal high is now the nearest candle to the fractal break of structure that failed to break the previous candle's low, okay? So this candle here that broke structure, broke this previous candle's low. This candle here that trades to here, broke this previous candle's low. This blue candle fails to break this previous candle's low, and therefore this blue candle is where our fractal high needs to be mapped on, okay? So then this would be our fractal high, and then we haven't had that fractal pullback yet, so we can't map on our fractal low. So now going through a slightly more complex example from earlier. So in this example, we have a low, and then price pushes up for 5 candles. Then on the next candle, which is the first red candle, the upper wick breaks the previous candle's high. So this is not a fractal pullback yet, okay? Because all of these candles trade above the previous candle's high. The second red candle then, which is this candle here, is the first candle that fails to break the previous candle's high, right? This candle does not break this previous red candle's high, and therefore we have that fractal pullback, and we can draw on our fractal high as being the top of this candle here, okay? So we can now map on that as our fractal high, and we can map on this as our fractal, as our fractal low. So we now have our fractal range that we're trading within, right? And price can move wherever it wants within it, as long as it doesn't break either that fractal high or that fractal low. So once price then starts to move up, as soon as this bullish candle here, as soon as this blue candle then pushes up and breaks through this fractal structure here, this is a fractal structure break, okay? Even though it's just a wick, it's a fractal structure break because we use wicks as structure breaks when mapping fractal structure, okay? So after this break of fractal structure, what do we know? We know that there is a fractal low that caused that break of structure. A fractal low is the nearest candle to this fractal break of structure that fails to break the previous candle's high, okay? So this blue candle here that broke structure broke this previous candle's high, right? This blue candle here broke this previous candle's high, because this is the previous candle's high, it broke through it. This red candle then fails to break the previous candle's high, okay? So if we're looking at this red candle, this is the previous candle's high, this blue one, and it fails to break that previous candle's high. It fails to trade above this previous candle's high. Therefore, this red candle here is then our fractal low, okay? Makes sense? So this is our fractal low that we can now map on, and we'll go back up here. Now we need to find where our fractal high is. What's the definition of our fractal high? Well, our fractal high forms when the following candle fails to break its high, okay? When the following candle fails to break the previous candle's high. So if we look at this blue candle here, what does the following candle do? The following candle fails to break this previous candle's high, okay? The following candle fails to trade above this break of structure candle here, okay? Which means we can map on this as our fractal high. What does that mean? We have our fractal low, we have our fractal high, and this is now the fractal range that price is trading within, okay? So we've pushed up here, and we've started that pullback on this fractal structure here, on this candle here. So price can do whatever it wants when it's within this range until it either breaks that fractal high or that fractal low, okay? So this candle here trades within this range, so we don't need to do anything. And then this candle here pushes down and breaks through this fractal low here, okay? Now, the second it breaks through this fractal low, the second that the wick trades through this fractal low, even if it's by a pip or whatever, right? As soon as this candle trades through this low, that means we have now broken fractal structure to the downside. So we can draw on this as our fractal structure break to the downside. What do we know when we have a fractal structure break to the downside? Well, we know that there was a fractal high that caused that fractal structure break to the downside, right? So what do? The fractal high is the nearest candle to this fractal break of structure that fails to break the previous candle's low, okay? So this candle here breaks this previous candle's low because it trades below this low. This red candle here breaks this previous candle's low because it trades below the previous candle's low, right? This blue candle here fails to break this previous candle's low, okay? So this is the previous candle's low here, and this blue candle fails to break this previous candle's low. So therefore, we've now found our fractal high, which is in the same place as the fractal high from earlier, okay? So we don't have to do anything, and we don't have to change that at all. So now what do we look for, okay? This is our fractal high that we can map on, or we've got already mapped on from earlier. And what happens? We then need to find our fractal low. So our fractal low forms and is confirmed when the following candle fails to break its low. So this red candle here, right, traded to here. We look at the following candle. Did the following candle fail to break its low? Well, the following candle traded to here. So the following candle broke this candle's low, okay? This candle traded to here, and the following candle broke this candle's low. So this red candle is not the fractal low. We then look at this blue candle, okay? What happens? The following candle fails to break the previous candle's low, okay? So we look at this candle, and then we look at the following candle, and it fails to trade below this previous candle's low. And therefore, we have a fractal pullback, and this is now our confirmed fractal low, okay? So we can then draw on our fractal low across here. So now what do we have? We have a fractal range that we're trading within, our new fractal range. This is our fractal low, this is our fractal high. Price can do whatever it wants when it's within this fractal low and fractal high until it either breaks the fractal low or the fractal high, okay? So then what happens? Price then pushes up and then eventually breaks this fractal structure to the upside here. And as soon as price trades through this fractal high, right, even if there's still 30 seconds left on the candle, even if there's 10 minutes left on the candle, as soon as price trades through this fractal high, then this is a fractal break of structure, because all we need for fractal mapping is a wick break, okay? Then what do? we look back and we try and find where our fractal low is. Our fractal low is the candle closest to this fractal structure break that failed to break the previous candle's high. This candle here, the structure break candle, broke this previous candle's high. This candle here broke this previous candle's high. This candle here broke this previous candle's high. This candle here broke this previous candle's high. And then this candle here has failed to break this previous candle's high. Okay, this is the previous candle's high, and this candle here has failed to break the previous candle's high. And therefore, this is our confirmed fractal low, and we can draw on our fractal low right there. Then if we get a pullback again, this will be our fractal high, and then this is the fractal range that we are trading within. Okay, so I understand that this topic can be a bit daunting, right? But honestly, once you practice this and watch the real life examples that I'm going to go through in the next video, fractal structure will literally become second nature to you. Like, you won't even have to think about it, and you can map it with your eyes closed in your sleep. Okay, so please don't get discouraged if you don't get this at first, because it will become super clear the more practice you do. So let's go to the charts then, where I will do a very detailed example and show you how to map the fractal structure on a candlestick chart.